Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Scump has given his perspective on the upcoming roster mania and the fact that OpTic from his perspective are not going to be making changes for Dashy. He reckons Dashy's going to be staying in the team for a long time to come, and also comments on the drum with Censor that went down just a couple of days ago. Very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, on the verge of 100k. Just love to see it. First of all, I think this is hilarious from Doug here. He must have thought that he found some sort of infinite money glitch, because you guys have probably seen these before. Hang for 100 seconds, win $100 type thing, $10 entry. Doug gives it a go, thinking that he's gonna, walk the cake with this. I'll just do it again and again and get all the free cash. It's not easy to do, but on an actual fair bar, it's definitely achievable. But, of course, the way they set these, it's all a scam, right? I mean, you guys have probably seen this before, that the bar will start twisting around, and as Doug says, they had a layer of grease on it to make it more difficult. So, anyway, Doug basically got scammed out of $10. Unlucky son, but he did get 4,000 likes for his trouble, so I guess fair enough at the end of the day. This I thought was kind of funny, actually, from X and Shotzzy, because Shotzy's like, oh, X Defiant, here we come, and X is like, yeah, now you're talking like a superstar, and that was the big discussion of the other day, and they were getting the streams on as well. Dashy, Shotzzy starting to play again, and maybe this wouldn't be happening if they were particularly concerned about their status on the team. Shotzy's not going anywhere. Dashy, it has been a big discussion point, right? He's been benched a couple of times from this team over the past couple of years, was dropped, was brought back, was dropped again, was brought back again under the whim of Hector, effectively, that said, look, I'm not letting this go down. Dashy's coming back, whatever it means to Rambo, we've got to make some changes. But fundamentally, the season didn't end as they would have liked it to, and there was no OpTic players on the breakdown team of the year. Understandably, I might have put Octane here instead of Cellium just to make it a nice kind of... There was 4 teams that won majors this year, right? Subliners, Toronto, FaZe, and Thieves. So it would have been kind of nice to have, maybe Octane in here just to complete the team of 4. And that would be a nasty squad, don't get me wrong. And also, I really like the way that this team works in terms of... Let's say it was Octane instead of Cell, but Cell still works particularly well. The roles actually would work really well here with this team, theoretically, especially with Octane. Can you imagine Octane, Scrappy, aBeZy, Hydra? Like, that would be a complete god squad. We do have some of the season cards here as well. I believe Lionman's doing them purely in alphabetical order, so these are Cellium's numbers. It is crazy how consistent this guy is, right? I mean, a 1.20, 1.23, 1.25, like, you don't usually see anyone that has numbers that similar across all the 3 game modes. But for Cellium, it's just another day at the office, right? So a good season for him. These were Dashy's numbers by comparison. Less kills, less KD, but still a good season, right? 91 rated overall based on the way that these numbers work out to be. Search and Destroy 1.14. Great first blood rate, high kills per rounds, just lots of kills and damage generally, right? And yes, at the end of the year, didn't have the greatest time at Champs, but most of the season was doing a very solid job for OpTic, was a monster for them at times when he needed to be, and I think did take some serious steps forward as a player this past season. Is it going to be enough, though, to escape potential roster changes on OpTic? You would think so, but as I've mentioned a couple of times, is a one-man change to OpTic necessarily going to be enough for them? And if it's not a one-man change, then is Dashy guaranteed as the second piece? Because Shotzzy's not going anywhere, we know that to be true. The thing with Shotzzy is, though, that his playstyle is just generally going to be a little bit inconsistent, right? If you watch Hydra play, for example, he's not an incredibly flashy player, Hydra. He gets the kills that he needs to get. He gets a lot of kills, as in, high KD, but also high engagement and, aggression in general. But a lot of the gunfights Hydra gets into is pre-aiming for. He's ready for the gunfights, similar with Pred, and honestly, both Hydra and Pred, when they're on top form, remind me of Prime Scump. And I think this is a comparison many have drawn now, that Prime Scump was, like, you got to think, when Scump was on OpTic doing what he was doing back in the day, he didn't really have an SMG duo. Okay, there was Karma and sometimes Kremp or whatever, but Scump was just the do-it-all sub. He would do everything. There wasn't back then really considered a need for an aggro sub and like a second slaying sub. Scump would just do it all. And, Hydra, okay, Kismet is obviously a great partner to him, but Hydra kind of is that guy as well for the subliners right now. He's incredibly good at knowing his timings, when to pre-aim. Obviously, he shoots really straight, and if there's any player that reminds me of Prime Scump the most, it was the season that Hydra just had. Shotzzy is a different player to that. He plays in a different way. Not saying that he should try and become a Scump, or, that's not how Shotzy's built. But it does inherently mean that Shotzy's playstyle, his mindless aggression at times, which honestly it kind of is, especially, and I think it has affected them in Search and Destroy at times, especially on LAN in occasions, does have some inconsistency associated with it. If you're playing against Shotzzy, top teams, they will know how to stop and to prepare for it. And it's not saying that Shotzzy is bad or anything. I mean, the guy's unbelievably good on his day and can have takeover moments. Hasn't really done that so much on LAN though, especially in the latter half of the season. And he's not going to be a consistent takeover force like some of those other SMGs are that play in a different way. So building your team around Shotzzy is a valuable idea, and you certainly want Shotzzy, but you're going to need another piece in there that's also reliable. Because if you look at a team like New York, you've got Hydra as the star, and then you've got three very good star players in their own right to some degree, but three very good role players around Hydra, and he's the main star. If you put Shotzzy with three very good role players around him, is that enough to become a winning team? Maybe not, because of just the playstyle differences there. So I think that OpTic have to think about that when it comes to this Rostermania, but they've also got to realise that, what New York have achieved is very impressive. So that's just a general discussion on how the teams might think about forming a team that can beat New York, because fundamentally, after a team wins champs, next offseason, every team tries to build a team that can beat those guys. Now, Scump gives his perspective on this whole situation. He comments on the Doug versus Dashy drama, basically says that, look, all this discussion about OpTic's culture, and actually he does almost agree a little bit with what I said in a comment. Okay, I said it in the video, someone commented mentioning what I said, and Scump says, yeah, in fairness, since the CDL's come around and there's been no Kremp, maybe for other reasons as well, then OpTic have struggled more. But he does say that OpTic as a team have won a lot in their history, but things I think have changed a fair bit over the last few years. But he also says from his POV, and there's no intel associated with this from his perspective, but then again, you'd imagine Scump knows a thing or two more than we do watching this from the outside. The Dashy's not going to be going anywhere.
Yeah, this stuff, I mean, I don't really get it, but I mean, this is what you guys want to see. I can imagine. This was the beef that went down yesterday. I mean, Brandon started going in. Brandon said, I'm not taking this disrespect right now, ladies and gentlemen. Say whatever BS to stay relevant in this community because the gameplay surely isn't doing it, brother. I know exactly how Brandon said that. He said, brother. Like, dude, Brandon is comedy. I've been in challengers for years fighting for a spot. Hopefully I get mine soon and I can put you in the place you deserve to be. And then Brandon said, maybe next year is the one, bro. Keep at it. Appreciate it. I mean, this was just comedy, honestly. I mean, the one thing that I don't really understand, so this is just me speaking, like, you guys know me. I try to stay out of drama as much as I can. But, like, I don't understand the take by Doug because, like, obviously, yeah, I have one ring, whatever. But if you take rings out of the equation, which I know people don't because they think Call of Duty's in the NFL where there's just the Super Bowl every year. There's other tournaments as well. I mean, OpTic is the most winning Call of Duty org ever. If you exclude rings. That's what I don't really get. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get it. Yeah, I got one ring, whatever. Well, like, I don't really get the culture thing. The OpTic culture, I could see it. I think Rab summed it up best when he said the OpTic has kind of lost that edge they had since Kremp. I mean, yeah, during the CDL, it's been tough. Don't get me wrong. It's been a tough run, and these all got deleted, so these people were probably just going rogue. But yeah, during the CDL, it's been rough, but still. I mean, let's be real. Brandon isn't going anywhere, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like Brandon's probably a lock. Again, I don't know. So don't take my words as... Don't do that, chat. Don't do that. Do not take my words as the truth, because I genuinely have no idea. And then you got to take into account that I'm coming back and shit. You know what I'm saying? So where do I fit into this formula?
So Scump is correct that in terms of pure championships won, like the top guys ever in championships won are Kremp, Scump, Formal, Karma, pretty much. I mean, Clay's nearly there as well, but pretty much those are the top guys in championships won. Lots of those for OpTic. But in fairness, since the CDL, it has been a bit different, and I think that Doug makes some valid points. I mean, we discussed it in detail yesterday. The more interesting thing for me is what he said on Dashy, and also he did tease there, right, a potential return to the team. Now, I don't think that's going to happen. I know that Scump has said, well, never say never, I might come back. I don't think it's going to be happening unless the game is phenomenal, but, you know, who knows? I mean, you can't rule it out completely, but I don't think that, I think Scump's messing around, let's be honest, right? And I don't expect him to be part of the OpTic team. Then again, if he was to return, I think it would actually potentially even improve that squad, as I just mentioned. Some of the issues with having just Shotzzy, you need a really good SMG partner for Shotzzy if that's going to work, and I think they can certainly find that guy. Pred might well be that guy. But look at these results for OpTic over the last several years. I mean, a lot of these were with Dashy, but of course most of these were with Scump as well. Top 24 2018. This is Simp winning, right? So this is the OpTic dynasty that won in 2017 Infinite Warfare. They win the World Championship next year, top 24. That was a real off year, to be fair. Next year was top 3 in Black Ops 4. Then it was the online Modern Warfare season where they were technically Huntsmen, so I just included the Huntsman result here, top 3. Since then though, top 6, top 4, top 6. It's not been pretty, and they've just never really got over the line at the big one. It just seems like at the end of the year, they always find a way to fall a little bit short. I mean, not even getting to top 3 in the last 3 seasons is pretty tragic, given their status as an organization. I don't know that Scump has said things like, well, you know what, they probably should have at least, not necessarily beaten New York, but at least made it all the way to, you know, map 5 against New York. They had a chance there, and Scump's idea here was that, you know what, they were good enough, and maybe they should consider sticking it out a little bit longer as a result. But I feel like for the last 2 seasons, OpTic have been pretty promising at a time, and then when it mattered, they fall short at champs, and many of the fans look at their results and they think, well, it wasn't too bad. Maybe they've got to stick. I remember some people saying after 2021 they should stick it out. I was kind of mind-blown about that, but in fairness, they did the merger and Formal retired, so they were going to make moves anyway. Envoy, of course, departed at that point. But even last season, after the top 4, people were saying, oh, they should stick it out and all this. And to be fair, they did. But, you know, they got they did actually change for a couple of days, and then they went back to what they were doing before. So this is the thing, like, these teams, if they don't deliver at champs, always contemplate changes. And when a couple of players on the team may be left in the dark as to their future, they're talking to other teams, they start to hear rumors, and all these things happen behind the scenes, right, that make it more challenging. So very much intrigued to your perspective. Scump reckons Dashy's not going anywhere. He reckons that this whole Doug versus Dashy thing, he's obviously going to land more on Dashy's side, and understandably so. But if Dashy and Shotzzy are to stay, and you would think that, I think getting rid of Ghosty would be a mistake as well, then maybe you're just looking at a one-man change. And is that enough to completely overhaul the last several years of OpTic underperformance? That is a question that I would have some questions with, to be perfectly honest. Quickly to mention here on Zero, he's mentioned a couple of days ago now that he definitely does intend to still hopefully return and compete against. Hopefully that happens as well. And also there's this. Best ever COD Champs average placement for minimum 4 events. Shotzzy has the second highest ever now at 3.5. JCap is still in third here, but Simp is number 1 by a mile. 1.8 now. It was 1.5. Now it's 1.8, so pretty embarrassing to be fair from Simp, right? But yeah, these numbers are still pretty outrageous. And just one final thing here, I thought this was hilarious when I saw this tweet the other day, right? So it's 18th of June, a few days ago now, but 24-year-old esports pro. Wow, I'm only in my 20s. I've got my whole life ahead of me. Esports caster. Here comes the oldest player in the history of the league. Truly an aging veteran at the old guard. It's a miracle that he's still alive. And it does feel like we talk about in that sense to some of the older players in the league. Obviously, Clay is like 30, so in esports years, that's got to be like 65, well into, like, you know, retirement territory. But yeah, Clay's, as I feel, personally attacked. So hopefully Clay stays around. But we'll see, right? There's going to be probably, you know, a few players this season that call it a day and retire over the coming weeks and months. So very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care. And I'll see you next time.